This is a special presentation from News Channel Nebraska.
Welcome to Quarantine Tonight on a Tuesday. Doesn't feel like a Tuesday, does it? It feels like a Thursday, but we are here and we are taking in an entire night of piano and violin, and you are going to love it. We are inviting back two very special performers from Central City, Nebraska, who were here before in the very early days of Quarantine Tonight. They wowed our audience with their sound and their abilities and their talents, and they're in your living room again tonight for 2 hours. You're watching the show that's sponsored by University of Nebraska Medical Center. Thanks to the professionals at UNMC, we can sleep better at night knowing that they are working on the research with their partners in medicine and patient care, and by educating the next generation of healthcare providers to provide Nebraskans with the kind of care we expect and deserve. So, business-wise tonight, the best news I've got is that I finally got a haircut. Yay! And I have the shortest hair in the room. I also have all these teenage boys with bright red hair sitting here looking at me behind the cameras. But what an experience. And you remind yourself that the people that cut your hair, you know, they take their own amount of risk by coming in every day, putting on a mask, which can't be comfortable. And when you get your hair cut, they give you the mask and then you hold it over your face while they trim around your ears. But I can tell you from experience, if you haven't gotten a haircut, it is a nice way to spend your day after fluffing your hair over your ears for the past couple of weeks. We have some exciting things to talk about tonight. We've got a full week of entertainment. Polka comes back this Thursday night. And we've got a Friday night entertainer with a sound, if you like horns and brass, you're going to love Friday night. We're going to tell you all about what's coming up here on News Channel Nebraska. But first, like we do each and every night, let's start with a prayer. And tonight we have one specially made just for you.
Hello, and thanks for inviting me to be part of your program this evening. My name is Jay Daniel, and I pastor a church here in Norfolk called Renewed Hope Christian Community. Our church may not look like other churches in that we meet in small groups in homes throughout the week. We do not do regular weekend services, but we do gather monthly as a larger congregation, if you will. We center around the three major principles that we love God, we love others, and we offer hope. If you'd like to check us out, you can find us at renewedhopecc.org or check us out on Facebook at Renewed Hope Christian Community. As we start here this evening, let's begin with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, Almighty God, you are an incredible God. You have been called the fountain of all joy. And here this evening, Lord, as we listen to music, as we enjoy the talents and the gifts that you've given the musicians here this evening, Lord, help us be mindful of all that you're doing in our lives, including the joy of music that you send to us through this programming. God, we ask that you would be with each of us this evening. Lord, I know that some of us are struggling with isolation. Some of us are struggling to just be home alone and to not have interaction with a lot of other people. Lord, I ask that you would send your peace and your grace upon all of us, that we would know you more and more each day and be closer to you and be closer to one another. Lord, we love you. We love other people. Lord, may this program and may all of us here in our own individual ways offer hope to your people around us. Lord, tonight we ask that you would hear our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All righty, guys, let's kick off the show.
Well done, Pastor Daniel, and I should add that it's a Daniel with 2 L's. That is on me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a treat for you tonight. Look at these two troublemakers that I found down in Central City. Now, literally, these two don't get in much trouble. This is Heidi and Kevin Cheng, and they are from Central City, Nebraska, and they do a great job as a duet one on the piano and the other on the violin. Heidi, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to be with you. Thanks so much for having us.
Yes, you did such a good time the first time you were here, and you brought your talents, and it made so many people happy. We got a lot of really positive letters about you, and so the ability to have you come back is just great. Now, tell me, what have you been doing since this whole thing started, the quarantine started? You've been holed up in Central City, or what have you been doing for fun?
Well, for fun, we have been held up in Central City, but for fun, Kevin likes to go hunting, so there's been a little bit of turkey hunting. What he says is that coronavirus has also caught turkeys, so he needs to shoot them. And we've done a little bit.
You go hunting with him, don't you?
I go along.
Do you actually carry a gun? Here I got. This is my fancy lav mic, and this is this is my microphone to talk to Kevin. All right, so we're social distancing now. So all right, so who does the shooting here? Are you both armed, or are you the only one?
I'm the only one.
Okay, so this guy, born and raised in Taiwan, classically trained on the piano. You came to Nebraska, and would you go to what college did you go to?
Kearney.
Okay, you went to UNK. And did you also go to UNK?
I did not go to UNK.
Oh, but you met in Kearney.
But we met in Kearney because I was playing in the Kearney Symphony Orchestra, even though I went to a different college.
That's okay. That's okay. So they met in Kearney, and you got introduced to hunting while you were in the United States, and now that's like your favorite pastime. You turkey hunt, you deer hunt, you do it all. And tell them the way you met. I mean, this is a pretty funny story.
I brought a deer that I hit with my car.
Yeah, so he hits roadkill. He takes it over to her house as a way to kind of start the conversation and gets her to help him, clean the deer up?
That's right.
Well,
test of true love.
That is a test of true love. All right. Well, this is great. Also, how are your folks doing in Taiwan?
Fine.
Okay. Is coronavirus all okay over there? Or Taiwan's really done a good job with the whole thing, haven't they? Are they out moving around, or are they still kind of holed up?
They are all out and about like before.
Oh, they are? Okay. Well, we'll get into all this here in just a little bit. But the good news, let's talk about your show tonight.
Yes.
You are going to really go to the top of my list because your first set is all patriotic.
Actually, most of the sets are patriotic, and what is unique about this program is we're going to take like a little journey through history and patriotic music. So as Memorial Day rolls around, we tend to think of those who have served our country recently, but we don't tend to think about the wars in our past history and those. We are what we are today because of those who fought in past wars.
I am so impressed by her. I see why you married her. She is... Do you ever get any words in at home? There. Anybody have any questions? All right, there we go. So Heidi, you're going to take us through the history of some of this patriotic music tonight, and we really appreciate it. All right, let's get things started. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll put this down safely here. This is News Channel Nebraska. You're watching Quarantine Tonight. We've got Kevin Cheng and Heidi Cheng from Central City. That's where they live, and it's a celebration of America on News Channel Nebraska.
Yes, and with that, we want to wish you a happy Memorial Day coming up, but we also don't want to forget that Armed Forces Day was literally just a couple days ago. So with that in mind, we're going to start off with the Armed Forces medley that seeks to honor every single division. So take a listen. So, the Armed Forces medley. Definitely, you might have recognized each one of those as they came around, and we want to thank those of you who have served our country most of all with this program tonight. And we want to thank God through My Country 'Tis of Thee, Sweet Land of Liberty, for giving us a reason to fight for our freedoms. So, My Country 'Tis of Thee, Sweet Land of Liberty, a song that describes our country and what it is. I am so grateful to live in the country of America and the freedoms we have. And what are we represented by? Nothing other than this red, white, and blue flag. Stars and stripes forever is another way to put it. We're going to bring you a medley consisting of a song called You're a Grand Old Flag. Now, there is a really neat story behind this one. So, the composer of this song, this was written back after the Civil War time period, and so the composer had just put on a huge show, and afterwards he met a veteran of Gettysburg. Now, this is the battle fought during the Civil War, and it was through this veteran that he came to write You're a Grand Old Flag, because this veteran was clutching a ragged flag underneath his arm, and he came up and said, "Isn't this a grand old rag?" And it was that he went to pen the words, You're a Grand Old Flag, and the melody to go with it. So enjoy this next one. You may have recognized a couple of other melodies in that one. This is My Country and Your Land Is My Land was the other one. Now, speaking of those who have served our country, it is easy to thank the ones that are still around us. They're visibly serving our country, but think of maybe your uncle or your grandfather, your great-grandfather who also served our country. Many of them laid down their life for our country. And we are what we are today because of them. Here's a song that recognizes those who have gone before. It's called Going Home by Mary Fall, and it was placed at the beginning of a film known as Gods and Generals. This was a movie, a portrayal of the Civil War, and it was played at the beginning as it showed each flag of each state at that time on the screen. So here is Going Home by Mary Fall. So, Going Home by Mary Fall to recognize those who have gone on in serving our country. Now, as you may know, the United States is not the only patriotic country in the world. There are many others. In fact, there are classical composers who wrote songs representative of their patriotism. Chopin was one of them, who was extremely patriotic to his country of Poland. And so when the Russians came to invade, absolutely, he expressed his opinion of the situation through music in an etude known as Revolutionary.
Wow. I bet we're the only channel on primetime television tonight with that from Chopin. Wow, look at these two. Kevin and Heidi Cheng, you are just doing a great job. We appreciate all of the patriotism you're bringing tonight. Kevin, I got to put my thing in here and ask you a few questions. So, at home, do you just break out the piano and play and just kind of entertain the neighborhood, or is this just something you do for a day job?
We actually, the other day, a neighbor walked by and asked us what we do for a living, and we said, well, we play piano and violin. When we practice, they actually couldn't even hear it.
Oh, really? You're that quiet? You're so down on the keys and counting on those keys. Like, we're going to have to retune this this piano. This is great. It's a beautiful piano from Lutheran High Northeast High School, isn't it? It's just, we're so fortunate that they allowed us to use it during this quarantine to have folks like you come and play on it. Heidi, you know, you married this pianist. You are a violinist.
Yes.
Do you practice together? Or, you know, if you're walking past the house, you're not going to hear the violin and the piano, or how does this work?
Well, sometimes we do practice together. A lot of times we practice separate because we're each working on our own different solo works.
Right.
And so, but yes, when we do need to bring it together, we do bring it together, and then we go.
I can imagine
perform,
your neighbors in Central City are very fortunate to have you in the neighborhood. I can't imagine you two raising too much cane after 10 o'clock. Oh, this is so good. So appreciate this. What are we going to do next for our next set? Give us a little preview.
So our next set will actually take us back to the Civil War time period, where so during wartime, music was used either to honor and recognition of a certain occasion, it was to boost the morale, and really it was to bring things together when everything was falling apart. And so these works were just short little pieces like Dixie and Bonnie Blue Flag that don't seem really significant in and of themselves until you think of them in their context. This was the music men had to listen to as they marched for miles onto the battlefield, and I can only imagine those instrumentalists, those band players who were playing for them.
Oh, sure.
So what we're doing is nothing compared to what they had to face.
So are you part historian too? I mean, you like history, obviously.
I do.
Is that something you studied, or how do you?
Well, I find fascination, and I try to be at least somewhat informed about the music we're playing because it helps you interpret the music. If you don't know anything about the composer or the background of the piece, it's almost like you're pulling something out of the blue, and it's hard to give it a whole lot of meaning unless you know like who wrote it, why was it written, and so those kinds of things are helpful.
What do you think, Kevin? I think she does her homework, doesn't she? Oh, you two are great. Well, thank you so much for being here. We have a full night of music tonight. I'm really not that old. I just was having trouble getting my stick to the ground. But it probably sounded bad. Hey, thank you so much for letting us know what you think of our program. Let's do the mailbag tonight. Mike's mailbag. You basically send us letters, and we'll go ahead and get those letters, and it gives us a good chance to understand who the audience really wants to hear. And they said super things about the Chengs, and that's why they're back here.
With more fun to get you through quarantine.
Got to get the right. There we are. Diane from Bloomfield. I really like to watch and listen to your music on Quarantine Tonight. I really enjoy Lori Larson's group and Justin Kane. Like to listen to the polkas. Very relaxing and stress reliever. I have watched every night except a few of them. I also enjoyed listening to a group called Smoke Ring. Keep up the good music, and thank you to the crew that works for you. Thank you so much, Diane from Bloomfield. We appreciate your nice note. I want to thank you for all the wonderful entertainment on Channel 35, Francis and Janet State. My husband is quarantined in the Veterans Home in Norfolk. He and I FaceTime and listen and watch the entertainment together. Well, that is awfully cute. This means so much to us. We thank you so much. Well, thank you, Francis and Janet, using technology to connect, and thank you also for your service. This ought to be a special evening for both of you. From Chase in Omaha, thank you for inviting the Mark Villadal Orchestra to play. Wow, what a treat. It brought back a lot of memories for my wife and me as we had a polka band at our wedding. Please keep the polkas coming. Be sure to invite Mark and the gang back. They're one of Nebraska's best. Well, you'll be pleased to know, I'm sure you watched, Mark was here last week, and we had a great time with him. All right, so if you would be so kind as to send us a letter, don't worry. If you tell us not to put it on the air, we will not put it on the air. But here's that address, 214 North 7th Street in Norfolk, 68701. Send us a note, and it really does help. And I write every single one back. And I have good news for you. I get so many nice comments. We have a mass on every day at about 8:10. And Father Joe Mishk from St. Isidore's in Columbus, he is the pastor there and does a fantastic job. And he is coming to give the prayer on this program on Thursday night. Yeah. Even better than that, we're hosting him at our house for dinner. So we are going to have to be on our best behavior. He's a good guy. All right, it's 8:29. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at your news. The weather, it's going to get warmer, but this weekend it gets warmer. Jeff Fox has the details coming up. Welcome back to Quarantine Tonight. I'm your host, Mike Flood. Tonight we're very lucky to have Kevin and Heidi Cheng from Central City putting on a great performance tonight. And during the commercial break, it struck me. I was like, I know what you remind me of. The Peanuts comic strip. It's like Linus and Lucy right here. You know, Linus gets right down into the piano. You know, like how your head's like down there, and then she's right over the top, kind of calling the shots. Am I right? Am I right, or am I right? Yes. Well, maybe if we're lucky, we can play that theme song later tonight.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin and Heidi Cheng, they've got a special Civil War set for you on News Channel Nebraska. Enjoy.
Yes, thank you so much. And the Civil War was a very difficult time for the United States in our history. 620,000 were killed in that war. And a lot of times we don't think back to that, though, but it's very likely that you had a great-great-uncle who fought in the Civil War. This is a war that pitted brother against brother, uncle against family member, and countrymen were against each other over what could be argued was slavery or states' rights. And so we're going to bring you some of those melodies that represented each side. Here is one called The Bonnie Blue Flag, and it was written by Henry McCarthy. He was known as the Arkansas comedian. He originally was in vaudeville, a great entertainer, and he went around composing music to entertain the troops. So here is his most famous, The Bonnie Blue Flag. Boost your morale, don't know what would, and that was what this music was intended to do, was to boost the morale and keep them going when everything was falling apart. Now, the next one we're going to play for you is quite interesting. It's Dixie, which was also an interchangeable term for the South. It was used as the marching song for the Confederate Army, and so generally these armies would march onto the battlefield with this melody. However, it also happened to be a favorite of Abraham Lincoln. So this was quite a popular melody in that time by Dan Emmett. So that was none than Dixie, keeping those morales boosted. But here's another one. Speaking of marching, you probably are familiar with When Johnny Comes Marching Home. This was, in fact, written by an Irishman, and he conducted a band in Boston, and so was already well known. He enlisted in the Union Army and served there as well. And he not only served in the Union Army as band director, he and his men were also stretcher bearers, and so they served multiple roles. But you'll definitely love this next one. In fact, you might have even learned it as a young child. That is the history behind it. And it explained the sentiment that everyone felt in that day. They all desired their loved one to come marching home. When Johnny Comes Marching Home. Now, not all of the music during that time period was intended to boost the morale. However, a lot of it was, well, I should say especially the music to represent that time period, kind of brings a reflective, mournful feeling. And that brings us to one known as a Shokin Farewell. This was represented in a documentary about the Civil War. And you may remember it came out in the 1990s. And this piece was kind of the theme, and it was written actually by Jay Ungar. A Shokin Farewell was not originally intended to be fed into Ken Burns' documentary. However, when Ken Burns heard the melody and this letter was found left by a man who fell in the Civil War. Basically, it was like a match made in heaven. The melody and the words came together, and it's been known in this documentary ever since. So that was Ashokan Farewell, represented in Ken Burns' documentary on the Civil War. Definitely a beautiful melody. Well, the next one we're going to bring to you kind of segues into the next set we will be bringing to you, which includes a favorite genre, ragtime music. So Scott Joplin, known as the King of Ragtime, composed about 100 ragtime works. Now, we are familiar with his most popular being The Entertainer and Maple Leaf. You will hear those. However, ever since then, people have taken simple melodies and set it to ragtime. And so here is one known as Happy Birthday. So if it happens to be your birthday and you're watching this, well, this is your lucky day. We're bringing you Happy Birthday, or if it's not, why, no one says you can't sing Happy Birthday when it's not your birthday. So enjoy this version of Happy Birthday.
Well, happy birthday if it's your birthday out there. That's a way to celebrate. Wow. This is Kevin and Heidi Cheng. They're from Central City, Nebraska, and they are back by popular demand on Quarantine Tonight, brought to you by UNMC. Wonderful job there. That is just great. And all the history that you have about the Civil War is just amazing. So now, tell me more about you. You grew up, we've talked before, in Kearney, right?
That's right.
Brothers and sisters?
I was the youngest of 6.
Oh, my
believe
goodness.
me, I was the spoiled one.
You were? Well, okay, so you have 5 brothers and sisters. How many
Yes.
brothers, how many sisters?
So there were 3 and 3.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
It's like a
we
Brady
were
Bunch
equally
almost.
represented.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids. And how much older is the oldest from you?
The oldest one is 14 years older than I am.
Oh, my
So,
goodness.
Yes.
That is, that's a wild house. So did you
It
learn
could
to eat
be.
really fast at home?
I learned not to talk too much so that I could eat before all the food's gone.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. And is your whole family musical?
My mom was especially musical. She was a singer, so she taught us all to sing, and so therefore we ended up being musical.
Do you have any brothers and sisters that play other instruments?
My sister primarily, she played piano and violin, piano being her dominant instrument. I did have a brother who tried to play organ and tried to play bassoon. I had another brother who played classical guitar, but they picked other things in life.
And look at you. Here you are with your violin, and wow, that's great. Well, you are watching special programming here on News Channel Nebraska called Quarantine Tonight. Tell us about our next set, Heidi. What are we expecting coming up?
So our next set is more patriotic music. We're going to go into World War I and World War II with this music. And for World War I, it was almost like a competition who could write the most morale-boosting song.
Right.
And so people, did win awards for the music that they wrote. And there's even coming up a song for Mother's Day and World War I, interestingly enough.
Look at you.
So,
Boy, you're just going through all the wars tonight, Kevin. You know more about America's wars, having grown up in Taiwan, but that must be a good time on a Saturday night. Let's dive into World War I's music. And he was telling me you were in the Taiwan Army for a short time. Do they have a band, obviously? Could you have been in the band, or?
They do, but the
Oh, sorry, I forgot this.
So if you are part of the mandatory military, band is not an option. So unless you sign up for continuing to being a career, then band is one option.
Okay, so you were in the mandatory Army when you came in, and you looked around and you said, "I think I'll just do piano on my own." All right, very good. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break. More with Kevin and Heidi Cheng when we come back on News Channel Nebraska. Welcome back to News Channel Nebraska's Quarantine Tonight. Someday if anybody ever looks at a video of these programs, they're going to be like, why did he have a yardstick that was 6 feet long with a microphone duct taped to it? And they're going to wonder, they're not going to realize it was during the pandemic. Have you been getting along okay during this whole quarantine business?
okay, and we're hoping things will pick up more as hopefully things start to open up.
And that's important to say. These two, before all of this business, you were going all over the state of Nebraska every day. You were going to O'Neill and West Point. I mean, just everywhere. Like, how many days were you out working?
7 days a week.
7 days a week. And how many places a day?
Sometimes up to 4 places a day.
And a lot of assisted living and nursing homes?
Right.
And here's, if you're watching tonight and you'd be interested in having Kevin and Heidi Cheng come to your place, let's do a little advertising. After this break, I will get their phone number or whatever the best way. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Absolutely by phone. We always have the phone with us. And also, for your information, we now have the capabilities to bring things outside. So if you're concerned about people being close together and, passing stuff we don't want to pass along to each other, we now are able to take it outside. Everyone can spread out or stay in their cars and still enjoy music.
Well, it's just a great way to spend a day. So,
sure.
And we got to put a plug in for these two because they come and they share their talents with us here. And she's got you working 7 days a week, Kevin. What's going on with that? You get no breaks.
I enjoyed it.
You're good. You're good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin and Heidi Cheng, and this one is featuring World War I and World War II on News Channel Nebraska.
Absolutely. Before we get there, though, there's one we can't miss. It's in between the Civil War and World War I. You may recognize the name John Philip Sousa. And he was known as the King of March music. He wrote our nation's marching anthem known as Stars and Stripes Forever, which was actually written for a 4th of July celebration. So, Stars and Stripes Forever by John Philip Sousa. You may recognize, you may even remember marching along in marching band and playing that piece. Definitely one to boost the morale. Speaking of boosting the morale, World War I definitely brought a few of those. We're going to play 3 of them to be exact. Now, it was almost like a competition to see who could be the best at this. It's hard to decide, honestly. These were rated the top 3, but how to pick one from the top 3, I'm not sure. We'll let you be the judge and the decider. The first one is Over There, and it also known as Johnny Get Your Gun, written by the same composer, George Cohan, that wrote You're a Grand Old Flag. So now President Wilson loved this one. He thought it was the greatest song ever to send those men out to the battlefield with high spirits. So, Over There by George Cohan. Now here is one that I think we hope would apply to you right now, or at least we want to inspire you to do this. Guess what the title of this next one was? Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. So with the trial of COVID-19 kind of staring us in the face, this is good advice for you. We sure do hope that put a smile on your face this evening. Now, this one was rated as the best anthem. It's called Keep the Home Fires Burning. So, mothers, you mothers out there, we hope you had just a fabulous Mother's Day. We want to thank you for everything you have done for your family with this song that was actually written by a mother and her son. Now, the son was the one who took the credit for it, but it was definitely a team effort. And so he wrote the melody and the first line and then actually gave the rest to an American poet. However, the anthem that this one will present will definitely stick with you. So here is Keep the Home Fires Burning. fires burning. And thank you again to you mothers who have done just that. Holding the fort down was incredibly important then, still is today. Now, we wanted to bring you one more march before we come to some entertaining ragtime music. This is by Franz Schubert, who is also patriotic, and his Military March. That was Schubert's Military March. Now, speaking of entertainment, we're going to literally bring it to you with Scott Joplin's The Entertainer, which is by far his most famous. Now, interestingly enough, it was the Maple Leaf Rag that made him the most famous, as he performed it at the Chicago World Fair. However, The Entertainer also grew to be well-loved and is perhaps even more popular than Maple Leaf. entertainer. Definitely one of the most entertaining ragtimes you'll ever listen to. However, Maple Leaf is definitely another favorite you are about to hear.
Wow. That's just amazing. I'm going to call you Hotkeys Kevin. I don't think my fingers could go that fast. You just bounce around. How do you train your... Oh, hang on a second. Got to get this thing up here. How do you train yourself to do that, to move those keys so fast?
I used to just practice it at a really, really slow, usually starting any music at about the speed of 60, like the heart rate speed, and then just go again and again and repeat the music again and again. Each time I finished running through all over, I pressed the metronome 1 up, so you couldn't really tell the difference, but by the end of the day, you can gain about 20 to 30 faster.
Wow, isn't it fun to watch his hands? They just bounce right on top of the keys. It's like nobody has a chance to breathe at all. That's great. That's just great. So I was thinking, you know, one of the things that I love about your last set there, talking about World War II and all that, I'm actually reading a book that someone gave me right now that celebrates the beginnings of radio, especially a station in Shenandoah, Iowa, which is KMA. And it was started by the Earl May family, and they own garden centers all over the Midwest and still do. The May family started this radio station, and when they started, they would have an auditorium where people like you yourselves would come from miles and miles and miles. Shenandoah is not a very big town, but it turned into kind of an entertainment metropolis. And then during World War II, it provided a lot of comfort to people while their sons were fighting the war, and they were making things work. And watching you playing that piano, I was thinking, you know, much different times right now, but you're providing a lot of comfort, both of you are, to a lot of people who are, quite frankly, sick and tired of being holed up in their house. They're there for all the right reasons, and their family. But I was talking to somebody today, and he's got grandkids, and he's like, I can't go see my 2-year-old grandson. And you think about that, it's just backward, isn't it? You know, but for all the right reasons, you got to be very, very careful.
Yes.
So do you ever think about, the amount of joy when you're at a nursing home this afternoon in Omaha? That's where you were, right?
Yes.
And tell us what you did, and tell us about the faces that you saw.
Yes. So, and this was a neat idea that we saw someone else do. And this is what we did. So we have all the ability to hook our instruments together, and so then we take it to like a courtyard or a place that's facing a bunch of windows.
And where were you today? What was the facility?
Omaha, Lakeside.
Lakeside, okay.
Which is Lakeside Village, an Emmanuel facility in Omaha. And so we're keeping the distance. We are not spreading,
anything.
keeping all the COVID-19 precautions. And but we turn on our speaker. They open their windows just a crack, and they can listen to us. And it was just so much fun. Sometimes you hear applause and you look up into the windows. You can't necessarily see anybody, but you know they're there. And the staff inside were bringing us reports as we went along, because we can't make contact with them very well. But
and what were the staff saying about?
They said they were almost in tears. It was the first entertainment they'd had in almost 2 months, and so they were missing music. And just the ability to hear some of their favorite familiar tunes and right in front of them was
It has to make you
special.
feel good, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, what we're going to do after this break is I'm going to get Heidi and Kevin's phone number, which is probably the best way to get a hold of them.
Yes.
And if you are interested in having them come play for your nursing home or facility or anything else, like you're open for business and ready
That's
and
right.
waiting.
So neighborhood parties, or if you just want to invite people to pull up in their cars at a park, we're very easy to set up.
Yeah.
We can set up literally anywhere.
And
And
every
play.
time you move your hand, I'm ready for that, what do they call that, violin stick there? I'm ready for that to hit Kevin in the head. All right, this is great. We're going to have more with Heidi and Kevin Cheng right after this. But first, let's check that forecast. I know Jeff Fox has been keeping an eye on it. Going to get a little warmer this weekend. Fine by me. We'll get you more coming up. Welcome back to Quarantine Tonight. It is a Tuesday night. For some reason, it feels like it's later in the week, but everything kind of mixes together. We are so fortunate to have this couple from Central City, Nebraska, Merritt County. We have Kevin and Heidi Cheng, and on behalf of our audience, thank you. You just don't meet nice people like this every day, and well, you do, but make sure this thing's on here. One thing I want to really promote for the two of you is they do this full time. You go around mostly to nursing homes and different associations, but you could end up at the end of a cul-de-sac with a bunch of homeowners that want to get together and have a little party. You are up for all of that. And let me tell you, they're reasonable and they're nice, and they will put a show on in your neighborhood. So here's what we're going to do. We haven't done this for anybody else, and I hope nothing bad happens to you, because we're going to put your phone number on TV. And you need to know that Kevin's a really avid hunter, so he's well armed. All right? But here is their number, and they would love to talk to you. If you would like to have them do a show for you wherever, at your business, at a facility, if maybe you are the social director for a nursing home, they'll come outside, they'll perform. He's got a keyboard, obviously, that plugs into a speaker, so you'll hear him just fine. And so we're going to keep that number up for a little bit. And what I would say is, if you are really enjoying the show and you just want to tell them that, let's write the number down. You can always give them a call and let them know. But if you're up for booking a gig, let them leave a message so that the mailbox fills up with new gigs, right? That makes it more fun.
Yeah.
All right, so I talked him into doing this. We said before, if you've watched the Peanuts theme song or the Peanuts comic strip, it's kind of like Schroeder and Lucy. It's not really, I said Linus before, but it's more like Schroeder and Lucy. That's what it reminds me of, because Lucy's kind of standing over Schroeder. Schroeder's got down to the piano on the keys with his head down. And so they said that they would do the Charlie Brown theme for me just this one time, and then we'll get into the rest of the show. So, Kevin, you know this song?
Uh-huh.
You're the modern day Schroeder. Let's do it. You are good. That is fun. Well, you're supposed to be standing over him, Lucy. That's how the comic strip works. Schroeder and Lucy right here on News Channel Nebraska. All right, your final set. What are we going to do here as we wrap up the show? What are you thinking tonight?
Absolutely. So to wrap up, we're going to bring you one more patriotic number representing World War II, and then we're going to finish off with just some fun grand finale pieces. So,
ladies and gentlemen, yes, Kevin and Heidi Cheng from Central City, Nebraska. We'll put that phone number up again, and they are open for business to bring this great show to your neighborhood.
Thank you so much. And we're going to start off with one representing World War II. There was a composer, Aaron Copland, who was asked to write a fanfare for those men walking into World War II. And what did he name it? Fanfare for the Common Man, because it was the common man of our land that we're all being drafted together and sent overseas. So here's that just for you. Fanfare for the Common Man by Aaron Copland. Yes, so World War II is perhaps a war that is still near and dear to your heart, as you may have had a relative fighting in that war. And again, as Memorial Day rolls around, be sure to remember them in their service, as well as those who are currently serving. Now, this next one you're sure to recognize. We pulled it out for you for fun. In fact, it's the oldest folk song that you probably know. And you may have even sung it as a young child. We're not even going to announce it because I think you'll know it right away. But I will let you know that it is by Mozart in several different variations. you probably guessed that one right away. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Well, did you know that that was even back in Mozart's day? You would never have guessed, but now you know. And he took that simple melody and expanded on it in 13 different variations, or 12 different variations with a 13th main theme. Well, next I'm going to bring you something special. This is in fact called the Orange Blossom Special, definitely a favorite fiddle song. And listen closely because it's intended to sound like a train. So you'll hear the horn, and then you'll hear the wheels turning. Here it is. So, Orange Blossom Special, but definitely the very grandest finale is by Kevin. And this one is by Franz Liszt, known as the Hanging. Oh, but before then, he reminded me of something. That's why we work together as a team. And so here is one known as the Lord's Prayer, set to music. We are grateful. We know that God has given us this gift of music. We can't help but thank Him with this beautiful number. a grand finale. This is by Franz Liszt. Now, you may consider all of the classical composers to be prodigies. However, this one is probably the top. Franz Liszt was known as a prodigy in his time as well as a composer. He wrote things at a mind-blowing speed, which you will be able to see in Kevin's hands. This is Franz Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody number 6.
Well, Kevin, good job, and you too, Heidi, on the violin there. That was unbelievable. I like the train sounds there. We got to do our social distancing here. Kevin, did that about wear you out there? When did you learn that song? How old were you when you learned that song?
I believe somewhere back in the junior high school. That was before I came here.
Okay, so just catching up with Kevin, he was born and raised in Thailand, came to the University of Nebraska at Kearney. No. You came to Nebraska Christian in Central City for high school. Oh, that's right. And then you went to UNK. And that's where the two of you met. Now, Heidi, you were in the Kearney Symphony?
That's right, Kearney Symphony Orchestra.
Kearney Symphony. And were you also in another one? There's multiple.
I was in a chamber orchestra as well. I was in his symphony as well. So, but these were not as full-time as the Kearney Symphony Orchestra. So.
Okay. And they met, and they got married, and they now live in Central City, and they do this all over the state. What a great finale. Do you get worn out after doing something like that, or is it just like another day at work and you go home and...
Sometimes we do the programs 3-4 times a day, so it's, if I am practicing and doing that same song over and over for 20-30 minutes, I do get really tired. But if it's performing and I run it through once, it won't wear me out completely.
Yeah, well, it's done very well. And you on the violin with that, what was that song that...
Orange Blossom Special.
Do you enjoy doing that? One has to wear you out.
Yes, if you do it over and over again. So like you said, the repetition.
Well, let me tell you something. On behalf of all of our viewers, thank you for coming here, sharing your talents with us, and for being a positive influence for so many people that were probably watching TV tonight and said, this is way better than people yelling at each other on a news channel, you know? You're very relaxing and fun to watch, and I love, love, love the history. And as we were saying, Kevin and Heidi are available for, this is their full-time job, and it's been kind of a hard go with all of the lockdowns that we've had with quarantine. So they'd love to hear from you if you had an event that would be fun, you know, whether it's outside assisted living facility in your community, or even a nursing or skilled care facility, or even just at the end of a cul-de-sac. You'll do anything. And I see that you are going to be in Imperial on the 24th at the United Methodist Church.
That's right.
Somebody was letting us know on Facebook that they were excited to have you. So you travel.
We
travel. What's the
yes.
furthest that you go?
The furthest we've been, let me think, is
Wichita.
probably Wichita, Wichita, Kansas, Minnetonka, Minnesota, probably.
Oh, okay. That was not too long ago, too.
That's right.
We just caught you, your last performance. You were just coming back from there or something like that. So you do, you have a piano and you're willing to travel. So.
Yes.
But you got to admit, this Lutheran High Northeast High School piano is the tops, isn't it?
It's way over what we bring around electric, that's for sure.
Yeah. This we are very, very lucky to have this for our program. Well, ladies and gentlemen at home, you have met the Chengs. They have done a wonderful job. There is their phone number, and I'm going to put up my address. If you'd like to share with us just a letter about them, you can go ahead and send that to me, and I'll make sure they get it. And let us know that you enjoyed the Chengs, and we will. I am almost sure if this show continues, we just got to keep having you back because you're so fun to have on here. There is our address, 214 North 7th Street. That's not where we're at. We're at a very undisclosed location right now, but there is the address to send us that. And that's how we got them here this time. So many people were telling us how much they enjoyed it. What would be your advice to somebody just starting on the violin or just starting on the piano about sticking with it? You know, let's say they're 12 and they're watching right now and they see you, Heidi, on that violin. What would you tell them?
I would tell them just keep on finding ways to be inspired, because that inspiration provides motivation for practice. If you have no inspiration or no goals to reach for, why practice? So that was a huge part for me, was watching somebody who was so good, and I thought, well, I could do that too if I practiced. So
That's good. How about you?
I don't have too much advice for kids, but I do have a way for parents to make it work. Tell the kids, if you don't want to do dishes and mow lawn, go practice your instrument.
Oh, so incentives. So you had a mom that kind of got you right with the program. Is that right? Yes, yeah. Well, she's maybe watching tonight. You know, what would be morning? All right, you're watching News Channel Nebraska Quarantine Tonight, brought to you by the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Kevin and Heidi Cheng, our guests tonight. We thank them so much. It's time now for news. It's 10 o'clock. You're watching News Channel Nebraska. Good night.